On today's episode of Locked On 76ers, things just continue to get worse for the basketball team as we now find out that Joel Embiid will miss the next few games and the matchup against the Brooklyn Nets and Ben Simmons on Tuesday because of a foot sprain. We'll discuss it all, what it means for the basketball team going forward. Next, right here, Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's prizepicks.com, promo code Locked On. What's up, D? How you been, brother?
Healthier than the 76ers. That's where I am, unfortunately for them. Right? It should be where I am and where you are in terms of the health. But we got to talk about this, man. Thanks for making Locked On 76ers your first listen. Welcome. I'm Devon Givens from 97.5 The Fanatic Radio in Philadelphia, along with Keith Pompey from the Inquirer.com, Sixers beat writer. And we got to thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen. And every day, remember, Locked On 76ers is free and available on all platforms, including right here on YouTube at Locked On 76ers. Well, Keith, the injuries, they keep on piling up for the 76ers. And I got to be honest with you, as we break down now, Joel Embiid out for a couple of games here, the back-to-back on Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll see about Friday as they travel to Orlando. And then, I mean, listen, man, Tyrese Maxey, we never gave our thoughts on that after that injury took place late last week. And where do they go from here? So we'll talk about Joel Embiid, the injuries with Tyrese Maxey, the impact it's going to have on the season. They have never really had to deal with this over the last few seasons when they've been contenders, Keith, where they have had a big number of injuries hitting their overall roster. But now in this case, already dealing with the Harden out for a month, followed by Tobias Harris missing games because of a left hip soreness. Then Tyrese Maxey sprains his ankle against the Milwaukee Bucks on Friday, and we thought it was a sprain. It turned out to be a fracture in the foot. And now we have one here with Joel Embiid, who's also dealing with the sprain in his foot after George Niang fell on him as Embiid was going in for a rebound. Keith, what does this now mean for this basketball team? All four starters, PJ Tucker, the only one left, healthy.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, it's one of those things where, unfortunately for them, you can't get guys. Well, you can't get guys on 10-day contracts right about now, right? But I mean, it's one of those things where, what does it say? I mean, these next couple of days are going to be, or next 4 games are probably going to be tough for them. Right now we look at it, the 76ers team, when the guys are all playing, they haven't really been a good fit. And now, like, none of them are on the floor, and it's like we look at the backups and the hard part is, the Maxey is tough. Losing Harden is tough. But when Embiid's off the floor, they're a completely different team. I mean, it's like the talent level just drops a notch, like several notches. And I think that this is going to be the hardest thing for them to basically get over, because when you think about it, who are the guys who takes up the slack? Maxey and Harden. And now you don't have either one of those guys. So this is tough for the Sixers. Like you mentioned PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker is a guy who's been a role player. He sets picks. He stands in the corner. He gets corner threes. He hasn't been scoring. He hasn't scored in the last couple games. But at the same time now, he is their most valuable player. So it's going to be tough. Now, if Tobias Harris comes back, they'll get a little lift, but I'm telling you, D, this is bad. This is bad for the Sixers.
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, anytime you lose 4/5 of your starters, this is absolutely bad. And while they do have the depth is to step in spots, not overall the entire starting 5, where you're going to need 4 new guys in there, from DeAnthony Melton, Shake Milton, Daniel House, and we'll see who the other will be now for Joel Embiid, whether it's Montrezl Harrell or Paul Reed. We'll find that out. But yeah, this is not a good spot for them right now. George Niang, I'll mention him. I don't want to leave him out. Matisse Thybulle, Furkan Korkmaz, he's still down with an injury. Also, they can look to Jaden Springer and Julian Champagnie, who was up the last game on, what was that, Saturday? On Saturday, on that second night of a back-to-back against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Yeah, this is not good. This is not good right now for a team that's 500 at 8-8. It's not like they have the cushion of being, let's say, 11-5 right now on the season. This is a team that's 8-8 with their starters out there for a good majority of the time, still trying to figure things out, still trying to find that fit with that new piece in PJ Tucker and incorporating the other guys. They are now in a really tough spot with what Doc Rivers is going to have to do and trying to figure out how to pick up and win games. The Embiid part, I guess they're lucky the way things looked when the fall happened on Saturday, and Niang fell into Embiid's foot and his ankle. It really looked like it was going to be bad. I don't know, talk about high ankle sprain or possibly something worse than that. Right now, I will look at them and say they're very fortunate to only find out that it's a foot sprain, not a strain, not a fracture like Maxi's that he sustained on Friday night. They're very fortunate of that. The Tobias Harris part kind of came out of nowhere, right? Because of the 4 days off that they had, and he's dealing with the hip strain. Now, maybe that's something that happened and it was just a lingering thing and maybe tweaked a bit during those practice sessions that they had on those few days off. But it's not good right now for Doc Rivers. Now, the good part is, all right, you have Brooklyn. They're on an uptick right now where things seem to be happening okay for them coming off their road trip. They pick up the win on Sunday, and we can talk about that, of course, with Ben Simmons coming to town on Tuesday. But that's a tough matchup. Then you go to Orlando for 2.
You go to Charlotte
first on Wednesday, and then the Orlando for 2 over the weekend. And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, even though Orlando, they're a young team. They're not a very good team. They have their starters. They have their pieces. They have their key pieces where the Sixers will be out with their main guys, at least for the foreseeable future, until we get there to know exactly if Harris could be back for that one, or even if Embiid can play in those 2 games against the Orlando Magic. So, no, it's not a great spot to be in right now for the 76ers. They're going to have to find a way, Doc Rivers, of how to fix this whole thing and get it figured out. When we come back, Keith, we need to talk about what Doc Rivers and the coaching staff now have to do. How are they going to do this? How will they sustain things right now with all of these guys out currently in street clothes, sitting on the bench and not playing in these games? So it's going to be a tough one, but we'll break it down next right here. Locked On 76ers and Locked On 76ers. This show is brought to you and sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp, what is it? Well, unfortunately, we know sometimes life doesn't come with a user's manual. You don't know how to navigate through a lot of different things when you're dealing with some personal challenges. Sometimes you don't want to speak about them openly to your family and friends. It's not easy to discuss some things that you're fighting through, some things that you're struggling with, and then speak to family and friends because you don't want them to know what you're dealing with, the current issues, and seeing you hurt overall. So sometimes, navigating through those challenges makes you feel a little bit unsure, and you have to really learn how to challenge, with the challenging emotions and learning those coping skills. Therapy sometimes helps, which, makes therapy the closest thing to a guided tour of the complex engine called you, where you have to figure out if you feel comfortable then opening up and then discussing something with someone else that you don't know and don't necessarily know you has an open mind. Well, in this particular case, as the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists available 100% online. Plus, it's affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with the therapist. If things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. It couldn't be any simpler. You can do that. You don't like the person that you're with, it's just not working out. It's okay. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person or you're explaining things wrong, but you feel what's best for you is to go in another direction. No waiting rooms, though, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at BetterHelp BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks for making Locked On 76ers your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. That's Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back, Locked On 76ers. Keith Pompey, Devon Givens. All right, Keith, what can Doc Rivers do? What are we looking at here in terms of fixing this as best as they can and trying to stay afloat with these games that they have upcoming, the 4-game week that they have with Brooklyn, Charlotte, and then Orlando?
Man, outside of praying, I mean, the deal is like Tobias Harris may come back, right? And I think it's going to have to be Tobias Harris when he was with the Clippers. You're going to have to showcase the heck out of him the next 2 games. I mean, it's kind of like some people think when they get everybody together, Tobias might be on his way out of here. Well, this is something to showcase him to get his stats up, so to speak. I hate to say that, but you're going to have to. Like when Tobias was in with the Clippers, he was their best player. He had a career year. And I feel like in order for them to win now, he's going to have to do that. Tobias, Shake Milton, and you're going to have to get some defenders on the floor as well. Montrezl Harrell's going to have to play. He's going to have to be a beast. I mean, I think, but when I look at that team, they're going to be small, man. It's going to be extremely small. Like I can see them going to it. They're going to have to go to a small lineup. Who knows? Maybe they'll start PJ Tucker at the 5 and then bring Trez off. Or who knows? Maybe they may start Trez at the 5. I just think it's going to be tough for them right now. And again, like I'm looking at it like, so this Brooklyn game early on, you were thinking with all the troubles, and I know Brooklyn is playing better, but you were thinking like all the troubles Brooklyn have, like this was a winnable game. And then you looked at them going to Charlotte in the 2 games against Orlando. It was one of those scheduling things where you're saying to yourself, yes, the scheduling guides helped them out. And now you're looking at it like, yo, they might lose these games, so it's just tough, man. It's tough.
Yeah. When you look at the roster that we're talking about now, or the players that we're talking about going in there, we're kind of looking back at a rebuilding type of team from years back where they get to this point. And it's not ideal when you run out these types of lineups, no matter the opponent, because they're just simply not good enough as far as starters go to win these basketball games. So it's going to be important. And oftentimes you hear Doc Rivers talk about these are the games that he likes to coach because he gets to coach, a certain way and try to steal these wins against these teams when he has people out. Now, it's normally not 4 of your starters. It's a player here and there that is out of the starting lineup. You're missing that player, and it's going to force you to, make some adjustments and really get into the game and coach these guys up where you're not running things through stars, all 4 stars or all 3 stars or all 2 stars that they have in that starting lineup where you're looking at that. So in this case, that's the one thing that I look at where it is going to be Doc Rivers really having to coach things up with these players in this game beginning Tuesday against the Brooklyn Nets, even with Tobias Harris back, because you still have to figure out the rest of them and how it all works. To your point about the PJ Tucker aspect of it, where he plays a role that doesn't look to score. And right here, yes, you're going to need defense to lead to your offense and get some stops and score. He's probably going to have to knock down a few shots or attempt to knock down a few shots here and there in these games upcoming, because they are certainly going to need those points put on the board against the opposition. So this is going to be an interesting test for them during this stretch, however long Embiid, let's start with him, and Harris, those 2 specifically, are out of these games, because we know Maxey and Harden are going to be down for a little bit longer. These 2, though, we don't know. And Doc Rivers and his coaching staff are really going to have to figure things out. in this one. So tough spot for them, certainly. The schedule isn't all that difficult because, again, we know these are two teams, a few teams specifically in Charlotte and Orlando that are way under 500 teams where you're not looking at them and you're afraid of them. You're just not. But you don't have your full complement of players either, where it's a bit worrisome in terms of their record and how it could affect things and impact them for this week here during this time. So he likes these types of moments, but you certainly don't like them in this spot like this where you're going to lose so many. Doc Rivers, I'm speaking of.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm thinking like, is it time to hit the panic button? But
Nah.
like you said, is winnable games. But I just don't see. I don't know. Like,
All right, so are they winnable still against these teams?
I mean, it depends on who. When if Tobias comes back, it depends on if James says I'm coming back at the last game. You know what I mean? Like,
Let's say Charlotte second night of a back-to-back with no James Harden because you're not going to get him, but Tobias Harris plays on Wednesday. Is that a winnable game?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, again, I got. Well, here's the thing. I got to check Charlotte out more and see. I just think it's hard coming back off a back-to-back undermanned like that. Now the thing is, guys, like you're gonna have to Shake Milton is going to have to become Shake Milton the scorer. We got D'Anthony.
He did that with 27, I think it was 27.
Yeah, but see, my thing is like I'm looking at it like this. Even the guys that they have that are playing are banged up. D'Anthony Melton has the back problem that keeps coming and going. I mean, anything can happen, but it's just at the end of the day, this is still the NBA, and it's not like just because a team in the NBA is struggling doesn't mean that they don't have NBA starter type talent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anything could happen. It's just going to be tough. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I have to check and see where Charlotte is and what Charlotte looks like. I'm not really sure. I'm not 100% sure where they are right now. But yeah, these and then you look at, as we talk about, the 4 games and the Friday, Sunday game with the Orlando Magic. Then you have at home, Atlanta comes back to town, and then you go next Wednesday to Cleveland.
Well, here's the thing. I'm just gonna give you something real quick. I ain't mean to cut you off. But Charlotte's record is 4-14. Orlando 5-12. So
that's why I said they're way below 500, but
Yeah.
they have their guys. Now I haven't checked to see where LaMelo Ball is because I know he's been banged up with his foot and ankle. But yeah, they're not good basketball teams. So they just have their normal starters where the Sixers will have their backups in this case.
Yeah.
Tough one, man. Tough one, as you said. All right, when we come back, we'll look a little further in 2 things here with this basketball team and talk about, we spoke more about it in the conversation of all of them. Tyrese Maxey, though. This one hurts. We'll get into Maxey next right here at Locked On 76ers.
Let's talk about prize picks, right? The thing about prize pick is I like how you could just take a certain player like Luka Doncic and you could say, hey, I'm betting on Luka Doncic to score more than 26.5 picks. Then you have a guy like LeBron James, and you're like, hey, I got LeBron James to have more than 7.5 rebounds, Kevin Durant to have less than 6.5 assists, and Steph Curry to have more than 3.5 3-pointers made, right? So how does this work? What you do is you pick 2 to 6 players, and if they will go score more or less than a prize pick projection, can't get it out, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. No competing against other people. It's just you and the projections available. Prize Picks offer projections on any sport that you watch. This includes NBA, NFL, the NHL, PGA golf, college football, college basketball, women's college basketball, anything. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. safe and fast withdrawals currently operated over 30 states in Canada. So how do you do it? You download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First time users can receive 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code locked on. If you deposit $100, Prize Picks will give you 100. If you deposit 50, Prize Picks will give you 50. Don't forget to enter promo code locked on at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. You know what I mean? As D always says, do it today, people. Definitely do it today.
Yes, do it today. Do it today. I'm sure there's some good games tonight. Most certainly the football game, the lone football game tonight. So you can check that out, Arizona and San Francisco. All right, Keith, Tyrese Maxey, the guy was tremendous in the first half, 24 points against the Milwaukee Bucks and their defense. Javon Carter saw a little bit of Drew Holiday, but that wasn't really till late in the second. And this happened late in the second where Maxey injured his foot and now has a fracture in his. He was going to be out for 3 to 4 weeks. He'll be reevaluated later on at that time. But now we look at him. We focused on Embiid in the first segment, talked a little bit about Tyrese Maxey, but as we said, man, it just keeps just continuing to snowball. Your thoughts on Maxey? How do you replace him? The Anthony Melton has looked pretty good. Shake Milton has also had his moments. We talked about that one game against the Minnesota Timberwolves where he performed pretty well, 20 plus points. What do you look at when you're looking at Tyrese Maxey, this injury, and how you replace him?
I mean, it's going to be tough. Like, I think, to be honest with you, outside of Joel Embiid, I would have to say Tyrese Maxey being injured is the second biggest blow because, you want him to be the Batman, and especially with Joel Embiid being down now. Because when you look at Maxey in the past, whenever Embiid didn't play, it became Maxey domination time, right? And I think right now, like, he's a guy who speeds the pace up. He's a guy that does a lot of things. He's an electric scorer, and it's tough. I don't see anybody to replace him. Now you might have, Shake Milton who can do certain things, but then again, that takes away from your depth. And Shake is good, but he's not on Maxey's level right now, right? Um, so I think that's going to be a huge hit. I do like the Anthony Melton, but I don't know if he is ready for that moment that Maxey can give you. A good player, but he's me right now. He's more of a 6-man type of thing. Now again, he's been starting, but I'm just saying I don't know if they're ready for that moment. So they lose a lot with Maxey, man. I'm telling you, outside of Embiid, in my opinion, this is the biggest blow.
As far as Melton goes, he's been in the spot before with the Memphis Grizzlies because Ja Morant would miss time and miss significant time, and he would have to step in this role. And to your point, just go out there and be yourself and not try to be Tyrese Maxey and help your team win in as best way as possible because he's a two-way guy, so the defense will also help, which will maybe make up for the lack of point production where Maxey averages 23, 24 points and Melton not so much, but the defensive stuff that he would do that Maxey doesn't do may kind of help with that sort of impact. And we'll see if that does in fact happen. But that's where I kind of just go back to Doc Rivers and the coaching staff with how they come together and figure this one out of how to do it. This is what you get paid to do. This is what you get paid for when tough times pop up. How do you figure it out? How do you prevail through those tough times for your basketball team? And yeah, this is a big blow with Maxey having a tremendous season. He's had some really big games. He's had some down games, but more so than not, we've seen the things that have been just so positive with him in year number 3. Already in the conversations. He was the leader for a really, really long time at most improved player this season. Right now, I think the leader is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but Maxey was up there for a good part of the season as the most improved player this year. And just with his spirit, his infectious smile, his, the energy that he always brings to the floor. And you're right, whenever Embiid is out, it's really his turn to star. And his star shines bright when Embiid is not on the floor as the focal point of the offense. And there's some really good reps for him, some really good games for him when Embiid is out. And it's disappointing right now when you sit back and watch, because this just doesn't happen. They have had injuries, but never to the effect of this, where so many players go down at the same time. And now they have to figure it out as far as how they run things. I wouldn't say, I mean, the offense is going to change a little bit, clearly, because the ball will go through Embiid first, and a lot of that on the low block. Now, I'm just guessing if we're just going to see a lot of motion, a lot of movement, a lot of, those types of actions for Doc Rivers and his coaching staff putting this together with this basketball team, seeing if they get some easy buckets. So maybe some high assist numbers in these games, Keith, that they are of course, looking to share the basketball, get some easy looks, hit those free throws, ball movement, defense on the other end. Man, I'm guessing we're going to see a lot of zone too on that end, and trying to stop some of these basketball teams. When you look at Brooklyn, maybe not so much because they don't have a big man. Nick Claxton was down on Sunday. I don't know if he's going to play on Tuesday against 76ers. Ben Simmons has been playing some 5 for them. I guess you really don't need a defensive or a big 5 there against the Brooklyn Nets. But, man, points in the paint, we might be looking at high numbers when it comes to the Sixers giving up some points in the paint without Joel Embiid there, especially when you look at Montrezl Harrell not being a big-time defender, and even Paul Reed, who plays defense very well, is not known to shut things down in the painted areas. So big challenge for this basketball team and the coaching staff over the next couple of days, however many days that all 4 of the starters will be out from Embiid, Maxey, Harris, and Harden, missing these upcoming games for the Philadelphia 76ers. Keith, a tough road ahead for them. We'll see. We'll maybe learn something from this team over these next few days.
Yeah, we'll see. We're definitely going to learn something about them. We definitely. Ain't no maybe. We're going to learn something.
It's a matter of if it's a positive learning experience or more so a bad thing for this basketball team. So I don't know, man. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting one, to say the least, with this squad going forward over the next couple of days. So, all right, man, we appreciate everybody for listening and checking in with us. Thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you do get your podcast. Keith, do you mind letting the good folks know where they can find us?
Yo, you can, wherever you get your podcast, you can listen to this podcast. And you can also, when you go to our YouTube channel, make sure you click on the Liberty Bell to become a subscriber. But tonight, I want y'all to listen to my man D. Stay up late. He'll be on his show from 10:30 to midnight tonight. Also, make sure you follow him on Twitter at DivonG975. Follow me on Twitter at Pompey on Sixers, and you can read my stuff in the Philly Inquirer. I went to Brooklyn and spoke to Ben Simmons for a story that's going to be on there later today and tomorrow about returning to Philly. So make sure you guys do that, read that.
Make sure you guys read that. We'll talk more about Ben Simmons' return on the floor against the 76ers on Tuesday. He dodges one a little bit with no Embiid. Quite honestly, I thought Embiid would try to put him through the rim if they got caught on the switch defensively to make a point against Ben Simmons. But that won't happen because Embiid will miss the game. We'll talk more about Ben Simmons and what he has done with the Brooklyn Nets for his basketball team now as they join Philadelphia. He returns to Philadelphia and play the 76ers on Tuesday. Keith, thanks, man. Thank you, everybody out there. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday. Talk to you Tuesday. A little Nets Sixers preview and a lot of Ben Simmons, I'm sure, right here, Locked On 76ers.
Peace.